Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I really wanted to get a lesson out to try and help you all nail those Megadeth-esque riffs. They're super hard. They're hard for me. I think it's Megadeth. They're hard. The way Dave approaches his guitar, it's not easy. You're aggressive, but at the same time, you got to be very finesse with the pick. A lot of upstrokes, a lot of alternate picking, a lot of moving your hand on the guitar to like lessen the palm mute so the strings can ring out a lot more. Like his Marshall tone is pretty raw. He really does use the amp in an old-fashioned sense. Like you crank it, let it raw, and then find what works around that. You know, some chords sound better inverted or strummed inverted. Some things require to be really choked off on a thick palm mute. Others you just sort of relax more and just take it easy a little bit. But every time, like the whole way through this, you've got to hit all those notes. You've got to stay relaxed. You've got to keep in the time, but you've got to hit those notes. And so I find it takes a lot to get used to Dave's playing, and you have to be relaxed. You really want to sort of choke up and strangle the pick and like get arm pump because you're so intent on hitting all those notes, but you got to keep loose. He does play loose, so keep that in mind. And so, rest in peace, Lucretia. I think it sums up a lot of the way Dave approaches riffs and plays the guitar. Right, so the whole thing starts off with this very lightly muted. Your hands rolled right off the fretboard, and it's just going on the 5th fret on the E string, low E, and it goes down to the 4th. And that whole other time you're cycling, you've got your 5th fret on the B string and 6th fret on the G. So it's so you can see every now and then I'm hitting the 7th fret on the E there. So this is one of those riffs, like I don't think it matters how you pluck the strings. Some people drag it and move it around. I just I don't even think about it. I just alternate pick that. But what I am conscious of is where my hand is and how that notes actually ring out. It's you don't want it to be choked off too much. You don't want that, and you don't. It's just in between that. So hopefully you got that part. We'll just and that's sort of, you just got to stay loose with that. Don't be tense. Right, so this part, it is hard. What's hard about it is just the picking patterns. It's a real shuffle with your pick. You're skipping strings, you're missing some. You got to drag your pick in certain directions, but at the same time, you've got to be right on with the timing for each of those notes. Right, so it starts on the B string on the 5th fret, and it's the 6th fret on the G and 7th on the D. So straight into the 6th fret with your pointer on the A string, and you hammer on. got that. Then you come back down to the 7th fret with your middle finger there, and you drag it up to the 9th. After you drag it up, you've got to end on that on the G string on the 9th. Then you take that finger away, and you're on the 8th fret there on the G. And that's probably the hardest part of the song, just that little lick there to keep it flowing and in time. And after the so I'll just explain the way I actually picked that part. I sort of drag like I'm doing sweep picking, I suppose, and just relax. It's the easiest. So after that, it's 7 9 7 7, and there's 2 licks that he does to finish this off. The first one is just a chromatic sort of blues run, 7 8 9 7 8 9 7, and then back to the start. The second time around, and he just alternates this. So 7 8 9 9 8 7 9 on the A string. Right, so if we just tie all that in and we play it slowly. And then at speed, you got to play it the same you do slow, but the same fast, the same style. When you're practicing slow, always pick the same sequence that you're going to play when you play it fast. Right, so hopefully you got that. It's a really fun picking pattern to play. It's Dave Mustaine through and through. It's just hard. Like there's no. I think I don't know. Some people might find that really easy. I've always found it. I've got to work on it to make it clean, to make it sound right. But straight after that, we go into the verse, and the verse is pretty much made up of 4 different licks, and it's the same as the under solo verse that Dave has for his solo. But we'll just start. It's one thing Dave often on the power chords between the chugs, he often does upstrokes on those. They just ring out differently. They just sound different. It's not so 6-string dominant. So look, it gives it that different sound. It's what they do. It's what he does. So I've seen him alternate. I have seen him play it sort of like that, but the way it was recorded on the album, I'm pretty certain it's just downstrokes. Like downs on the chugs, all downs on the chugs, and then ups for the... So the first little lick there, it's just, it's like a chromatic blues thing. So it's 4, 3, 2, 4, 2, 4, then like a power chord in the A. And you palm mute all of that except so after that you go into the bar, and you saw that I finished on the B and then the G, and upstroke both of them. But if you noticed, just before I upstroke it, you sort of plonk your hand there to give a percussive that's just another thing that Dave sort of does. Righto, so that lick there, it's just a descending chromatic run. 4, 3, 2, 4. You do that twice and then straight back into it. Right, so to finish that off, it's a power chord all the way. Okay, so that riff to tail off the verse riff, I always start that with an upstroke, and you hammer onto from open A and E string. So you saw after, sometimes when you go to the G there, you sort of slide off that. Just little nuances that make it cool. Okay, after that we go into a little lick that so that is 2, 1, 4. 2, 2, 1, 4, 2, 1, 2. And the first time you go straight back to the start. So second time around we're getting up to the guitar solos, and look, everyone always just focuses on Marty's solo here, but I think the rhythm behind that, what Dave plays, is equally cool. It's so much fun to play. It's just as fun as the solo. So I'll just play this whole thing and then break it down. Righto, so to enter this whole riff, we'll just break it down. It's using that same shape as the 2, 1, 4, then 2, 1, 2. But after that, so that's nice and slow. You saw, then 2, 3, 4, then on the 5th fret on the E string, and a hammer and pull off. Then he moves up to the 4th fret, the same thing again. But instead of the hammer and pull off on the first fret, you've got to hopefully you got that. Let's just do it one more time and I'll try and talk it through. So then he goes up to the 5th fret. So right there, you're doing the same pattern, the same. Just the 6-5-4, 6-5-4, 6-5-4 on the strings. But the picking pattern that you're tailing 7, 4, 7 on the A, back to the 4. Back to the 7th on the A. Hopefully you have that. Then he slides up to the 7th. And this one, it's the same thing. But you just 9, 7, 6. Straight after you've done that, it goes into that same shape, starting on the 8th fret on the E string. And that's as far as you go. And then Marty's solo starts and Dave's cool riff begins. So just that whole lick will just go slowly. You got to get it right. It's a cool part. Then it starts. It's one of those riffs hard to do slow. Right, and to get the timing for this, righto, so I loosely again palm mute this. I let the notes ring a little bit and try and relax my hand, but keep it tight. Starts on the F there, and you alternate just taking your and that is just a power chord there on the A and D string. Then it goes into the open E. And that goes into the A power chord on the E to the E flat. So the actual change on that when you do it really slow. Right, so without getting ahead of myself, we'll go back a little bit. The E one goes into the D. Finishes on an A power chord, and then goes to the B. You only do that once. Move up to the C sharp or the D flat. And this one tails without, you don't actually do the whole, you keep your hand there and just play it twice. So just keeps repeating itself, but it's a super fun riff. We'll just play it a few times, hopefully you get the feel and the sort of shuffle with the whole thing. So Then it goes into Dave's solo, and Marty comes back and does the rhythm, and it's very much just the same as the verse, except they've just changed those little licks. They've just changed them around a little bit. So I'll just play the verse once, and hopefully you'll get the hang of it. So it does that, and just does that twice, and on the second time it gets into the tail of the song, big pick scrape, and then it's so you got that, it's a 7 to 9 on the A string, then 7/8 on the 6th, second time 9/10 on the 7th on the 6th string, then a power chord 7 to 10, does that a few times. Then to finish the whole song off, it's just a little run that's right. So to slow that down, it is 7 9 9 7. Hopefully you can just see that. So there you have it, Dave Mustaine's Lucretia. These Megadeth songs, like on the Rust in Peace album and things, they're just really good to learn. They're, as far as technique goes, people always say, what do you learn? You know, how do you get good, or what are the scales you practice? And no, I don't do any of that. I just play songs. I just play things like this and work on it, and that's my lesson. That's, you know, Dave's teaching me, and I work these out, and I just try and play them as I hear it. Change your palm muting. It really works on your technique. So stepping up to Megadeth isn't easy. A lot of the riffs are just so hard. You got to concentrate a lot learning them, but they sound really cool. They're really, really fun to play. So hopefully you have that. But to finish this video off, something a little bit out of the blue, but I want to say it. The last few weeks in Australia, I live in North Queensland, Townsville. I'm not affected by this in any way, but the poor people down south have had the worst fires in all my life. I've never known anything as bad as this. And it is really the land of like fire, drought and flood. It's one or the other. Beautiful place other than that. But these people have really battled the last few weeks, and my heart goes out to them, and you're helpless. There's nothing you can do. But to hear earlier this week that Metallica actually pledged $750,000 to the cause, to where it's needed, to these poor folks, to the firefighters, I think that was humbling. It's a lot of money. I don't care if you say they're rich, they can afford it. It's a tax write-off. I don't care. We're on the other side of the world. This is Australia. So thank you very much. I really, really appreciate it. Just the thought that you're not alone. But anyway, Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. Ciao.